Hello, you're listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club, and you're most welcome.
Well, it's Friday, it's 5 to 5, and you are welcome once again to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club. Hello there, my name is Paul Carmichael.
And I'm Alan Lear.
And you're welcome to the club. It's been quite a noisy week in the village, hasn't it, Alan? Something nice to distract us from the constant stream of urine that we can hear coming from the presidential lavatory. Someone's setting up some sort of a stage area. There's all sorts going on.
Yes, there's evidently some sort of remedial counting school going on, because all I can hear is people going 1, 2, 1, 2 for the hours of the day and night. But it's nice to see some activity in the village for a change.
It is actually, yeah. It's probably the over 80s chamber orchestra. They're always going for it, accompanying the belly dancing squad. But oh, there's the door. Do you want to grab the door, Al?
Yeah, as long as it's not the over 80s belly dancing squad. Hello, can I help you?
Hello. Come in here.
Oh, please do.
Let's go a cup of tea for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've been working out there on the stage, and I thought you might have a cup of tea for me.
Well, I'm sure we could manage something like that. Are you involved with the concert that's being set up?
You're in the road crew.
Just you?
I do all the scaffolding. And I've had a drop of cider, and I think I better have a cup of tea.
You're more than welcome to pop in for a quick cup of tea. So, hold on a moment, Alan. Do you recognise that face? I think I do.
What, behind those fake rustic mutton chops?
I've been rambled.
I think you have, because am I right that we are talking to Mr. Ed Tudor-Pole?
Yes, hello, man.
Oh, Ed, welcome to the shed. So it's you setting this up in the village, is it?
Well, I've been helping, you know. I like village events.
Oh, wonderful. That's really good. Well, it's a bit unfortunate, because Tony would have loved this, but obviously he's indisposed at the moment. So, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, though, Ed. What Alan and I normally do at this time on a Friday is Tony's magical bingo machine often needs to be given a bit of a whirl. We have to keep it oiled up, otherwise the balls tend to seize up. So
give it a whirl. Don't let the balls ever seize up.
Oh, we will try not to, not at my age anyway. But I'll tell you what, would you maybe like to come with us for a bit of a ramble and see where we end up?
Oh, yes, please.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Right, in that case, let's give her a whirl and see where we end up. Off we go.
Off we go.
Tony's enchanted bingo machine. A curious contraption of cogs, levers, and glowing buttons that hums with ominous energy. This machine generates 3 completely random numbers. These numbers are fed directly into the Dewey Decimal System, the arcane reference system by which books and their contents are categorized. In this way, the bingo machine conjures from thin air a topic of conversation so enthralling, so wildly unexpected, that it leaves the members of the Rambling Club both bewildered and vaguely excited. Thus, another evening is saved from the brink of boredom, thanks to Tony's marvellous, possibly haunted and entirely inexplicable bingo machine.
Well, here we are in the great outdoors with our guest president this week, Ed Tudor-Pole, ready to begin our first ramble. And the numbers selected by the machine are
1, 1, 5,
115, 115. And that means that the first subject... Nice and open, this one. Time. Okay. I often enjoy listening to conversations that often Alan has, which are about physics to do with time. I haven't got a clue what they are, these conversations, but I like to sit there and nod and listen. Do you find time particularly fascinating, Ed, or is it just a thing?
Well, I mean, now I come to think of it, I suppose it holds some fascination. I mean, I like time because it gives me something to cling on to. And if I'm going to meet you at a certain time, I will be punctual. And I have very low opinion of people who aren't punctual. That's simply rudeness.
I try to get everywhere at least 10 minutes early if I can. I'm
Quite right, too.
terrified of being late at all.
And like that, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, away from the abstract. So, Alan, go on, because I do find it so interesting when you and Robin Ince or someone go down one of these little rabbit holes. Tell me something fascinating and quantum-y about time.
Well, the most interesting thing about time, I think, is there are two different kinds. Somebody described them as found time and invented time. So invented time is stuff like seconds, hours, and minutes, which humans have just made up. They're not real. They don't exist. But then there's also found time, which are things like days and months and years, which are real physical events that occur because something's happened in the universe. So in a day, it's because the Earth's completed a rotation. In a year, it's because we've orbited the sun once, that sort of thing. And a month is more or less one moon orbit of the Earth. So people say time is a construct, but actually quite a lot of time is not a construct. It's something that really happens, that is observable.
Blimey. That's the sort of thing I love, because halfway through that, I sort of just was nodding, and I was not entirely sure what that was about. But so time's important in all sorts of ways, and obviously, like you say, Ed, punctuality really matters. Has there been a time when that could have really caused you problems, that whole thing of punctuality, that you can remember?
No, not particularly, but I like what you say about time, Alan. You're absolutely right. It is measurable. But what's funny is that we're subject to time, and our minds can make it longer or shorter. So time can be, strictly speaking, the same amount of time on a watch. Depending what it is you're waiting for, it can be longer or shorter.
Yeah, so supposedly Einstein said that an hour talking to a pretty girl feels like a second, but an hour with your hand on a hot stove feels like an eternity.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying, really.
Now that I can make sense of. That does make sense. And I suppose as a performer as well, because obviously not just as an actor, but also as a musician, there's something where timing is incredibly crucial, isn't it? You've got to have that innate sense of timing as a performer.
Oh, absolutely. Well, in that sense of timing, let's say if you're in a play, you've got 63 laughs in the course of the evening. So you want to click them all off, when you're doing 8 shows a week. You get each one, bosh, 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 but it's all down to timing, but you get so used to it that it's rather nice. And then suddenly you won't get one. And you think, oh dear, why aren't they laughing at this line anymore? And then you try doing it in different ways. And then your timing's gone off. And you don't get the laugh. And then perhaps it comes back. And of course, music timing is very important. It mustn't be too fast. Got to get the right tempo for the right song.
One thing I learned from Tony is apparently in America, Ringo Starr, who is not particularly well regarded for his drumming perhaps over here, but apparently in America he was known as the human metronome because he was beat perfect. His timing was exact.
Absolutely. Ringo Starr is a fantastic drummer.
Yeah.
I don't like all these people who are rude about him. They can go and take a long walk along a short pier. I love Ringo. He's my favourite Beatle now.
The other day, I heard someone had split the music into stems of Ticket to Ride, and so you could just hear Ringo's drum arrangement. God, it was good. I mean, it's one of those things where I think you could have had quite a simple sort of like a relatively simple rhythm going, but he makes it deliberately quite complicated, and you're listening for all these little bum, 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 bum.
Well, exactly. There's a lot more to drumming than many people think. I reckon it's the hardest instrument of all, actually, to play. And it's on my stereo in the car once. I had only half of the stereo, and the Beatles are playing. So you just had the backing vocals and the drum kit, and it really makes it interesting because it's a song you're familiar with, but you hear it just the parts, less cluttered.
Yeah.
And Charlie Watts is very similar to that. He sounded much simpler than he actually was. When you analyse his drum beats, they're really pretty clever, actually.
I think that's why Ringo sometimes gets stick. I think it's because he wasn't flash. You know, he's not a Keith Moon type drummer. But it's not that he's not doing good work. It's just that you don't see it.
Well, I saw it. And I think he was blaming the Beatles when, was it John Lennon said that Ringo Starr's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. You know, it was just being sarky.
That's not true.
It isn't true.
John Lennon never said it. It was actually a joke from the radio series Radioactive, and they attributed it to Paul McCartney.
Well, anyway, okay.
It's gone down in legend as being something John Lennon said, because obviously, as Michael Fenton Stevens said, Paul McCartney wouldn't say it.
I'm not so much invested that John said it. It's just that somebody said it and they were wrong, whoever said it. That's what that.
No, but no, it's interesting that although they attributed it to Paul McCartney, people think of it as being John Lennon, because Paul wouldn't say
I mean, come on, man. Who cares? We're getting so anarchy now.
it. True. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. When I was at school, I went to school and I'd been learning the violin since the age of 5, and it wasn't very cool, and I wanted to play something cool. So I put myself forward for percussion lessons. Of course, the range of instrumentation that you're looking at is just absolutely remarkable. But I can't remember a bigger thrill as a performer than playing the timpani. My God, the kettle drums, the power that you had of those. And I think that maybe I'm the anti-Ringo because I went for it with the Flash, because you could go for it. And, you know, up there in the Philharmonic Hall, God, I enjoyed that. But I couldn't master a paradiddle, which I was told was...
So you're not the anti-Ringo. Ringo's a proper drummer, and you're not.
No, that's very true. I'm not.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So, with
It's the second oldest type of music, percussion, must after singing, presumably.
Absolutely, I guess it must be, yeah. Well spotted.
Yeah, I suppose it would be.
They banged two rocks together. Well, first of all, they sang, and then you stab your foot or bang a stick.
Yeah.
And that's how music started.
Yeah.
That's lovely, that is.
I saw something fascinating the other day online, which is someone is trying to retrieve sound from a rock. Now, that might sound utterly insane, but rocks have... I know, Alan, I know, but rocks have magnetic fields, correct?
Yes, because they contain quartz crystals, which can carry an electrical charge.
Tape's magnetic.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm just reporting the facts here. Well, I'm reporting what I saw on Twitter. However, there is a theory that you should possibly be able to actually pull sound from stone if it is in some way... You're looking at me like that. You think, I know. But it's a fascinating idea, isn't it? That maybe you could hear these sounds. All right, it's probably total crap. But isn't that just a lovely idea that you could do that and go back to actually hear... talking about time, to actually hear what it would have sounded like, in the same way as to hear what dialects would have sounded like in the past. What would it actually have sounded like in Shakespeare's England? You know, that sort of thing. That fascinating. Are there any time periods? Ed, is there a time... If you could time travel, where would you go?
No, but hang on, the rock. I mean, all these things
okay.
would make noise. It's not such a far-fetched idea. Because if you think about the entire planet, it's not silent, is it? It's making a noise somehow, all over the place, sort of creaks and seismic judderings, and all it can't possibly be silent. So I think that's very interesting. And plants, they make noises, and if you recorded them and amplified them, you might get something very interesting. And then you put them on a tuner thing, like on a piano, and then you can play a tune on the piano with all the notes of the forest.
Oh, that'd be like some sort of early experimental radiophonic workshop music, wouldn't it? Where you're actually playing samples of plants. That would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, there is, isn't there? There's a species of bamboo grass that grows so quickly you can hear it growing. It's like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I love to hear the bamboo grass going.
Isn't it something like 3 foot a day? And that's why... And that's why it was used as a torture method.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of that as you did.
Yeah.
Let's not think about it anymore.
Yeah. It's not a nice one at all. But no, I am actually interested. Ed, go on. If you could time travel, Where would you go?
Well, first of all, maybe 1846, because you went down the end of Oxford Street, and then there were just fields. You turned right down the Edgware Road. There was some mansions, quite far apart up that bit. That'd be quite interesting to see, just by Tyburn. But of course, that was when there was cholera, and everyone was sort of dying, and they didn't know why. So that's one interesting time. Yeah, 1840, around the time of William Thackeray books and that.
Yeah, that would be.
What about you? What time would you like to go back?
I love that period between the two wars. For some reason, I think that period, sort of like in the 1920s, have always held this attraction for me. I don't know if it's just because I want to try laudanum or something, but there's a part of me that just thinks that there must have just been such relief that bloody war was over and you could start to live again. I mean, I suppose that's why the 20s roared. I think to have experienced those, now that would be absolutely just a fascinating time for me. I always used to think I'd like to go back to sort of Elizabethan England, but for the reason that you said, cholera is one reason, but there are so many ways to die, and 1920s, I reckon I'd be safer, I think.
Yeah, that's a good era. I mean, any era would be utterly fascinating to go back in, I often think. And I'm always looking for the past. As you walk through London, a lot of it's so modern and rebuilt, but you can occasionally see a little view which hasn't changed for maybe a couple of 100 years. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's beautiful when you get those. Absolutely beautiful. Alan, what about you?
I mean, the thing about London is there's so much hidden history, and the geography would be so different if you went back to when the fleet was still visible. London's so big, it's got whole rivers lost underneath it that you can no longer see, except by LiDAR. But I'm with Ed. I think the Victorian era would be an exceptional, largely because unlike the Elizabethan era, say by that point we've invented bathing, so everybody wouldn't stink to high heaven as you were wandering around the place. Maybe after Bazalgette's done the sewage system, so the Thames is clean and that doesn't stink.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, that era of expansionism and the Crystal Palace, the Empire exhibition, that would be a wonderful thing.
That would do.
That was a local boy, of course. Crystal Palace was built by Joseph Patson and was from Birkenhead.
Ah, and isn't Bazalgette's, I think, great granddaughter a producer of reality television now?
Yes, something like that. So he went to all the effort to de-stink the public sphere, and she's doing the reverse.
Well, here we are, second location and a second set of numbers, and those numbers are
7, 8, 1.
781, 781, and that means we are talking about music, but specifically general principles and musical forms.
Ooh.
Now, Ed, punk is one of the key things about punk that was so attractive. The fact that it didn't have to adhere to those sort of rigid musical forms that had pre-existed before, that it gave you the freedom to break away from just sort of like, I suppose, the rather stale style of music, and you could create new forms almost.
Absolutely not. Oh. Music is melody and rhythm.
Right.
The same rules applied. And punk rock is not a form of music, it's an attitude. Now, I was brought up on those 60s songs by the Beatles and the Stones, which are absolute masterpieces of melody and rhythm. You can dance to them. They've got catchy tunes. That's all I've ever tried to do with a 3-minute piece of music. If you've actually heard any of my songs, you'd realise that. I see what avenue you were trying to guide me up, but it's a non-starter.
Right.
All that nihilistic crash bang wallop, you can keep it. I'm a musician to my absolute soul. The melody and the harmony is all I care about. And I'm writing a song at the moment, and I've always got a song on the boil. And so music is rhythm and melody, and if it lacks either, it's not music.
Yeah, performance art or poetry with accompaniment or something.
So what punk did, which was useful, is given people like me who hadn't got, wasn't a massive virtuoso, it gave us a chance to get in on the scene. So all these sort of bedroom wannabes playing their guitar, imagining they're in a pop group, suddenly they could just get out and get off their arse and do it. So that was fun. A lot of all the groups from that era, that's exactly, they were encouraged into it. Because suddenly, come on everybody, you can do it. Learn 3 chords and join in.
On the bash.
Yeah.
I was talking to this about this Eric before. Wasn't there a member of the Sex Pistols relatively early on who was kicked out? And the excuse given, I don't think it was the reason, but the excuse given was because he was too good at the guitar.
No, that's not right. They kicked out Glenn Matlock because he was a little bit straight, but the reason they gave at the time was because he liked the Beatles.
Right.
But I mean, what's interesting about, Glenn Matlock is a sweetheart, and he's a very good bass player, but he plays with Blondie and everybody, and he's quite straight, and he also married my first girlfriend, but I let him off. So this isn't something you didn't know, but actually I saw the Sex Pistols recently at the Albert Hall, and I went backstage. Because I love Steve Jones very much. I think he loves me. And then I chatted to him, and then time to leave, and there was a chap in the corner. And I said, that's Glenn Matlock, sort of all on his own in the corner, not really joining in. Anyway, it was a fabulous concert.
Yeah. So, because obviously people talk so much about punk and all the retrospective programs we have, and they're always talking about it as it was a reaction to what had come before. Do you think of it as being that? It was a reaction to what had gone before, and if so, what was it kicking back against, do you think?
Well, you see, the thing about punk, you gave everybody something to do. People like me could get on and form a group and play, and then all the journalists could write all their theories about what it all means, the dissatisfaction with the politics. Everyone could join in, but if you think you can define it too closely, you haven't really understood it. Which is not exactly your question, is it?
I'm just wondering, was it a reaction against music that had come before?
Well, yes. The trope is that all those long-haired people, 20-minute indulgent guitar solos, it just become all too indulgent. And it was definitely a reaction against that. And it would have definitely happened whether Malcolm McLaren and Bernie Rhodes had started the Sex Pistols and the Clash. It would have happened anyway. It was in the air. I could feel it. Because I was sort of wearing a leather jacket and playing songs with a fairly surly air, in 1975 at drama school. And then when the punk rock thing kicked off, they said, "Oh, look, Ed, they're copying you."
Well, now that's interesting because you were a student at RADA, weren't you? So did the two sort of like the training, the style of training at RADA and the style of music that you were involved with, did they coalesce, or were they?
No, not at all. They didn't mix. When I was at RADA, it's 100%. It's all day and all night. I was vaguely aware the punk thing was going on, but no, when you're at RADA, nothing else exists. But I left in April 1977, so it was still quite early days. That's when I thought, hang on, I'm not going to get a job as a spear carrier in Scarborough. And the punk rock thing's kicking off, and I can write songs, and I bet I can write songs better than these ones. So then that was easy,
It must have just been such a creatively freeing time. Like you say, that idea of basically anybody if you can join in. And
exactly. It's a spirit, a fabulous spirit.
Yeah.
United everybody.
Well, that's it, because when I think of that, obviously the most notorious thing you can think about, I think, is when the Sex Pistols appeared on Tonight with Bill Grundy. But it was an entire group of people, wasn't it? It wasn't just the musicians. It was like a little happening, which probably Thames Television weren't expecting at all. But, it just felt like much more than a band, than any normal band.
Well, now it proves it, because the scene's still going on, and it's become a sort of family. Because I'm always invited to play sort of punk events, mostly up north, huge hangars with hundreds and hundreds of people. And recently I was at Leeds talking to a very lovely girl out front, and there was some awful punk band making a bloody horrible racket. And I hate that sort of noisy rubbish. And I said to her, do you really like this band? And she said, well, not really, I'm just here for the social, And that is what it's like. It's like a family, because they're all kind of old now when I play. They're all in their 50s, early 60s. So we've grown up together, and it is like a family now.
Do you define yourself more as an actor or a musician or as an artist?
You've not read my book.
I haven't yet, but I'm about to talk about it. I've got it
I
right here.
despise acting. Why are actors held in such high esteem? I mean, look at the description. So what do you do? Oh, I endure weeks, months and years of unemployment just for the opportunity of pretending to be somebody else. Are you serious? I mean,
historically, of course, actors have been held in total contempt by the social hierarchy.
rightly, if that's not a frivolous, fatuous occupation, I don't know what it is. It's a circus trick. Because it's very hard to pretend to be somebody else convincingly so they can't see you're acting. A, it's very difficult. And B, it's fatuous. And C, so what? It's, it's like a trapeze artist. I mean, some admire, or a juggler. I admire jugglers. But it's not very important, is it? It's fairly frivolous. And
Yeah.
I pretend to be somebody else. What's the matter? Don't you like yourself? Pull yourself together. And also, actors are such horrible people. All they talk about is how successful they are.
So that's fascinating, isn't it? Because, I mean, obviously, yes, I haven't read the book yet, but because when you look at your CV, you've got this remarkable sort of like list of works that you've done as an actor. So I suppose I've always just thought of you, I mean, predominantly also, of course, because of when I was growing up, I think Crystal Maze as well, which, again,
2 minutes.
yes, that's it. But I mean, that must have been difficult. That must have been combining acting and presenting. I mean, that must have been a hell of a difficult job to have done.
You see, I was inveigled. When the band broke up, I was inveigled into the acting world. Suddenly the doors opened and I was so depressed. I just went along with it, It was something to do. And but it was, and all those credits you see, they're just bread and butter, rubbish jobs. I mean, horrible jobs on television. Having to wear a suit and a tie, pretending to be somebody a million times less interesting than I am. And the Crystal Maze was actually what got me out of the trap of being an actor, because the trap of being an actor was that, I mean, I desperately missed my music, but I couldn't reform the band and start gigs coming out, because if Spielberg rings, you've got to take the job. I was completely broke anyway, as all actors are. So I was sort of trapped. And it was horrible. I didn't know how to solve it. But once I did the Crystal Maze, the acting stopped, and they don't give bit parts to game show hosts. So then I was free, and then it was just me and the world. And the only option was, I had a guitar. I could play a guitar and get paid for that. So then I embarked upon the 15-year solo tour, which is what I've been doing since 2004 until the pandemic. Playing every single weekend, all over the land. I played every city and town in the kingdom. Oh, well, not every town, but hundreds of them. In fact, arguably, the only boring part of my book are the 16 pages listing them all.
It's a fascinating. I mean, it is fascinating to hear you talk about that, because, of course, the moment you look on a CV and you go, bloody hell, Game of Thrones, then the natural thing you think is, that's big. But then again, I suppose at the time, it's another job, isn't it? It's not. You're not thinking Game of Thrones.
There's a terrific chapter about that Game of Thrones, which answers your question in my book. You see, it's not because I've been so successful that you should read my book. It's because I've had, as you say, a very interesting, varied life, and I met so many stars in every avenue of show business. So I'm very happy now, because my shambolic life now makes sense. It was all to write the book. That was what it was all for. So the book is the result.
The culmination.
Yeah, the culmination and the justification, the explanation, and the redemption and everything.
What's the reason? What's the story behind the title? The pen is mightier, obviously, than the sword. But what's the?
The pen is mightier than the sword. The pen is mightier than the swords of 1,000 men.
Yeah.
The penis mightier. Yes, the publisher didn't notice that. It was just a little naughty Sex Pistol McLaren type joke. And when he had the book printed up, he suddenly realised it was the penis mightier.
I did notice that when on the cover, because I was looking at it before and I thought, looks like penis. I hope he's noticed.
The gap. That's funny, isn't it? It's just pure punk rock.
It's the logical sequel to Pretty Vacant, isn't it?
Exactly. So Malcolm would definitely like that from his grave. Well, not from his grave, from wherever he is. I hope he's somewhere nicer than the grave. Like in heaven,
Yes.
Along with Tony.
Ah, yes.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Oh, God, the two of them together. Well, here we are, third location with our guest president, Ed Tudor-Pole, and the third set of numbers. And our final numbers are
0, 7, 0.
070, and that means the final subject for us to ramble on is news media, journalism, publishing.
Oh, publishing, that's convenient.
But that's very convenient. News media and journalism. I worked for the Daily Mirror in the mid to late 90s, so I got an opportunity to see how the news is constructed. And I think that the moment you've been in a newsroom, from that moment, you can't take anything at face value. Because, of course, you know that ultimately you have got an editor who is deciding on the angle that we have to take. Everything has to have an angle to it. So for me, it's something that I am, having worked within it, I am very, very cynical about. You were saying before, Ed, about appearing in the papers and appearing on screen, actually seeing yourself in print and things like that. Is that something you've ever been able to get used to?
Well, it's sort of weird. When you get famous all of a sudden, you're not prepared for it, really. It's sort of odd. And then you read all the articles about yourself. And then if one week they're not writing about you, you sort of get a bit unsettled. Things like that. It's all terribly unhealthy. Because what I realise now is it's not being a pop star that's the thing to do. The thing to do is to be an integrated member of an ordinary society. That's where it's at, man. So I've been working on that. And I think I'm getting quite close now. But regarding publishing, what I think is silly about publishers is that when I was trying to get my book published, I had so many refusals, but none of the refusals were based on the fact that they'd read any of it. They refused it on other grounds, which is a bit like having a load of scratch cards and throwing them on the bonfire without kind of scratching them first. You might as well read a bit of it. You don't know what you might be throwing away.
Why didn't they? I mean, was there a reason that they didn't?
Well, that's what it's like in the publishing world. I mean, but anyway, I found a great publisher. You only need one, don't you? And, I found a great publisher, so I'm happy now. But it just seems funny to reject the book without reading it first.
Yeah.
Or even any of it. That seems odd. A bit unintelligent to me, if you ask.
Yeah. Are you a happy writer? Did you enjoy the process of actually writing the book?
I did greatly enjoy. I liked writing a sentence, owning a sentence. Yeah, I am a writer. So I did enjoy it. But what I didn't enjoy was when the sub-editor rewrote it, translated from English into English, except his words, not mine. And getting it back to my words was very difficult and hard. So it's a bit like seeing your children being tortured to death. And the bloke says, "Don't worry, there is a process you can undergo to stop their torture." But so that was really hard and traumatic. But I did get it back to my own prose eventually. But his marks were on every single sentence, and his grammar and everything.
Well, the thing is, you can kind of understand that whole sub-editing process in a novel or in a Raffles book. But when something's an autobiography, surely the whole point is that it's in the words of the person who's written it. You don't want it to be lavender out into the same prose style as everybody else.
To be fair, he's a bit overkeen, so let's move on, because, he's a perfectly nice chap.
Fair enough.
He wasn't being malicious.
Yeah. So journalism then. Did you ever come foul of journalists during your career?
I certainly did. Like on the Son of Stiff talk, breakfast time, and I don't really talk at breakfast. I'm an Englishman, for goodness sake. I like to have me breakfast, then talk. But a journalist joined my table and I was trying to be polite, I was new to the game. And he started asking me about my father, and I was telling him rather sort of over-personal stuff, which then became the centerpiece of an article in the Record Mirror about me, which my father saw and then went completely mad. So there I was on tour writing him desperate letters, from the coach, in the coach. They don't think I didn't mean it. Please, you gotta... Oh, man. Yes, you can't trust journalists. Man, you can't.
No.
But, it's a price of an education, isn't it? By the time you know everything, you're 94 and you're just about to die.
Yeah, it's that famous thing about you avoid mistakes through experience, and experience is what you get by making mistakes.
Exactly, and you only regret what you didn't do, not what you did.
Is it so? I mean, throughout history, if you think about journalism, they've always been portrayed in a certain way. Even Ibsen, where Ibsen had a real thing against journalists. He would often talk about newspaper publishers in various plays. It seemed that Ibsen didn't particularly like them. Is it an enemy of the people? I think. Which was the play he wrote, and that he was essentially expelled from his own country for writing it, and that was about journalists. But they'd never been viewed as particularly upstanding members of society, I suppose. But ultimately, I suppose, if your job is to rake up scandal, then why would you?
Well, there are different forms of journalism. You can be an interesting reporter type, or a scandal monger. I mean, good old Ibsen. But yeah, all this, But it depends what sort of... I mean, if you want to be a reporter, you can be a perfectly credible writer, sort of quite highbrow, and get away with the moniker of a journalist. It's not quite as bad as being an estate agent, is it?
No, there are very few films or novels where a crusading estate agent brings an evil corporation to heel.
No, my theory, indeed.
Are there any sort of journalists? I mean, John Pilger, for me, actually, there's a absolutely stunning journalist. The work that he was doing in the 70s, the documentaries he was making for ATV and things like that. Pilger's work, fascinating, especially the stuff. I think in Cambodia, he did an awful lot of work out there. Are there any particular events covered by journalists, by reporters, that for either of you that really made something stand out and seem... Well, it brought something to your attention that you were unaware of? Michael Burke with the famine in Ethiopia, that sort of thing is what I'm thinking here.
No. Right.
Alan?
I suppose Carol Cadwallader's work on the Panama Papers would be a recent example. But I mean, the real life journalist that springs to mind when you think paragons of journalism to me is Edward Morrow, who was the American journalist who stood up to McCarthy, the House on American Activities Committee in the McCarthyite witch trials. So yeah, that would be probably mine. There's a very good film, Good Night and Good Luck, which stars Richard Roxburgh as Edward Morrow. And what happened when McCarthy tried to come for him and found out actually it helps to have the news media on your side if you're going to wage war against the news media.
I was wondering the other day, CNN did a live broadcast of George Clooney. Came from Broadway, and this was on at midnight about 3 days ago on CNN, of George Clooney in Good Night and Good Luck. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, is that sort of like, are they trying to make a comment on the current state of America with that, do you think?
I think there must be, because it's the same sort of thing. It's comply or die. Political factionism, isn't it? You have to believe the party's version of events. So the January the 6th insurrection wasn't a breach of the law. It was just a happy party day out for everybody. Whereas what's happening in LA is not a pride march; it's a civil war. The alternative viewpoint is quashed and prosecuted. Almost literally prosecuted.
With the reaction. You know, the reaction that there was in the papers towards punk, the filth and the fury and all that sort of thing. Was that because there was a real separation between age groups, do you think, Ed? Because of younger people doing something that older people couldn't get? Or was that just maybe the papers looking for a way to sell papers?
Well, I think Malcolm learnt a lot from Andrew Loog Oldham. He used the same ploy, because Andrew Loog Oldham, when the Rolling Stones started, they were just as shocking, because I just remember I was a little boy at the time and loved them, just as shocking as the Sex Pistols, if not more so, these long-haired greasy louts. And by making them the bad boys, they've sold millions of records. And McLaren, who was very similar to Loog Oldham in many ways, copied that. So deliberately made them the bad boys. And that's what I loved about them, because they were the first band since the Stones who, stuck two fingers up to the establishment and was seriously, I could tell. I mean, could see their game. But of course, I loved it because they were being, anarchic and F you to everybody. So that's where I was particularly drawn to them for the attitude, not so much the music. Well, I mean, I like the music, but it's not as good as the Stones.
I mean, it was a reaction towards music that had gone before, but it must have been wider than that. I mean, if you think about Beyond the Fringe, Peter Cook, Dudley Moore and so on, that was very much a reaction to that sort of post-war politics. So was punk really a reaction more against how society was going than music? I mean, it was bigger than music, wasn't it?
Well, it was a reaction, as I said, against the boring old fart bands. And, everyone had their own shot at it with their own take on it. It's like giving everyone a load of canvases, 20 artists, right, and they all do their own painting. Some you like more than others. But we were making it up as we went along because there were no real rules, you see. So I was exploring the sort of Knights in Armour thing because I had no idea about fashion. And I thought, well, if we do Knights in Armour, that'll never go out of fashion because it's already out of fashion. And then, Adam Ant was coming along. And then Boy George a bit later came along with all that new romantic stuff. So it's just a question of making it up, inventing it as you're doing it. And then you become old hat. And then you find ways to survive.
I suppose eventually what you're doing, which is sort of like this creative, spontaneous work, eventually it's going to become pigeonholed. I say that because I was working, shortly before he died, I was working with Neil Innes. And of course with the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band, they were creating all sorts of new works. They were bringing Dadaism into music. But then, as he said when he was on stage, I am now just an old fart. But I think his thought was that what they'd done had now almost become mainstream. But punk hasn't done that, has it? It's never become mainstream.
Well, I don't know if it's become mainstream. Nothing's really mainstream now, is it? I suppose you'd think like Beyonce is. Yeah.
Yeah, but things are so fragmented these days. Everybody's got so much choice. There's not really a template the way they used to be. So, you can't point at somebody and go, he will have heard this song.
Yeah, I mean, there's all, as I say, I'm not really belonging to the people who just talk about it and theorise about it. I'm certainly not a boring old fart. You should have seen me 2 weeks ago in Exeter. I'd never been better. I had the audience like that. You should have seen me the week before in Bilston, then before that at Wolverhampton, then before that Stoke-on-Trent. How long I can go on like this for many minutes. I go out there and do it. I don't theorise. I mean, I do theorise about what may go down well, because I tell the stories as well now. And that's more like a sort of stand-up act. So that's new. So I do the first half songs, second half stories, because this is when I thought the book wasn't going to be published. So I thought, well, these stories are too good to be missed. So I'll tell them on stage, which works out to be a very good format. But now we're selling the books as well. So then you spend the last hour signing them all. So, I'm not complaining, but it's a big show now, 3 hours.
And you're still evolving as an artist. Is that fair to say that you are still creating and therefore growing and evolving as an artist?
Yeah, I'm working on a song now. For sure. I mean, that's just what you do, really. I mean, I'm not interested in... It doesn't matter how famous I am, but I just do what I do, and I'm glad I can do it. I'm a very serious man. I haven't got a flip of bone in my body. Well, I mean, except for telling a joke, but that's serious, isn't it?
Yeah, you want to get it right, don't you? It's not...
I mean, I go on stage and say, it's great to see there's a young audience here tonight, so they all laugh, and then I say, well, actually, I'm assuming you're a young audience. My eyesight's not what it was. Ha, ha, ha. But no, that joke's backfired on me, because now my eyesight really isn't what it was. So there's an irony, eh? I mean, I still tell a joke and it still gets a laugh, but it's slightly less funny to me.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Well, here we are back in the shed. Our rambles for the moment are ended. And Ed Tudor-Pole, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. No matter what direction I thought we were going to go this week, we have gone in every direction. It's been wonderful to ramble with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for asking me to this very unusual show.
Oh, absolute pleasure. It really has. But we must talk about the book. So, the book, The Pen Is Mightier Than the Sword. But the Pen is Mightier, or penis. But
No, pen.
Pen. But currently available from Oldcastle Books. So, if people want a copy, is it straight from the publisher and in bookshops at the moment?
It should be in bookshops, but I mean, it was in all the Waterstones in London and it's sold out. And then my friend said she hasn't seen. So, I mean, you can always get the bookshop to order it. Mm-hmm. That'll only take a couple of days. Oldcastle's the publisher. And, essentially it's entertaining. It really is. I believe it is. It's for your entertainment. And it's gone down very well. It's got highs and lows, you know. And it'll make you laugh occasionally.
Yeah. Well, Ed, really, it's been, like I say, I mean, to me, as somebody who grew up watching you on the Crystal Maze, to have had a chat with you and realised, God, we've got this expanse here of work, of artistry. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure, so thank you so much.
Well, an automatic lock-in, I think, for you now.
I think so, thank you. Oh, God, that thrilled me a bit. Right, so, but Ed, thank you very much, and thank you to everybody at home for listening, and we really hope that you've enjoyed this week's meeting of the Rambling Club.
The club meets every Friday, but if you'd like to get in touch in the meantime, here's how you can find your fellow members.
Tony's official website is at www.tonyslattery.com, and you can get in touch on the contact form on the website.
We're also on Twitter at SlatteryLive. Please feel free to use the hashtag TSRC to discuss this week's topics.
I'm on Twitter also, at Paul Carmichael V, but these days you can mostly find me on Blue Sky, and you can find Slattery Live on Blue Sky as well.
And at Rambling Club at Blue Sky as well. But Tony also has a Facebook group, which is at facebook.com/group/TheTonySlattery.
And you can find him on Instagram at Tony_Slattery_official.
And I believe you can also find our guest president on Facebook.
You absolutely can. So if they want to find you, Ed, they go to Edward Tudor-Pole /10Pole Tudor, and they can find you there. And you do check things on Facebook, don't you? You're quite active there.
Yeah, my friend does, yes. And yes.
Superb. And Tony is also on Instagram at Tony_Slattery_official. And if people want to join the Rambling Club for themselves, Paul, how do they do that?
Well, what they can do is they can head to www.patreon.com/SlatteryLive. The club is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we'd be delighted to welcome you. You can find all sorts of perks there for members. You can get your badges, of course. You get sent a signed photograph. You can find episodes 4 weeks in advance. There's all sorts of things there. So head over to www.patreon.com/SlatteryLive.
But please do get in touch by any of those methods. We'd be thrilled to hear from you. And if you've enjoyed this episode, where Ed Tudor-Pole talks news, media and journalism, why not head to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a lovely review and 5 daily stars or 5 morning stars, but no suns.
It's very good. And we will be back next Friday at 5 to 5 for another ramble. But until then, it's a goodbye from myself, Paul Carmichael. It's a goodbye from my colleague, Mr. Alan Lear.
Goodbye.
And it is a goodbye from our guest president this week. Thank you, Ed Tudor-Pole.
Goodbye, everybody.
You have been listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club with our special guest presidents, Ed Tudor-Pole. He was accompanied by Stephen Fry as the voice of the bingo machine. Acting President Tudor-Pole was assisted by Paul Carmichael and Alan Lear. The music was composed and performed by Michael Livesley and Andy Frizzle. Silly Voices are by Michael Livesley and the show's concept is by Paul Carmichael. Our producers are Stuart Morris and Alan Dybing, and the show's researcher is Sula Carmichael. The show's producers are Erica Lear and Mark Hutchinson, and the program was edited by Harry Carmichael. The series executive producer is Mark Strickson. Tony Slattery's Rambling Club is a Fanfanital production.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening.